You torpedoed me with it.
I
Good
did.
morning, professional photographers of Idaho and beyond. I am Bob Ryder.
I'm Larry Fry. Good morning.
He is Larry Fry. He just got here.
Well, 6 or 7 minutes ago. I'm not late.
You're not
though.
late.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
that was good. Yeah.
Hey, we've got a cool show today, and it's kind of an awkward title, and it was chosen for that for a reason.
Yep.
Right? Work hurts. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Let's have a little conversation, if you will, about some of the things that we've got coming up. What do you think?
I think we're going to be busy.
I think we're going to be busy too.
So yeah, convention coming up. Great pre-con for those of you that came to the pre-con last Saturday. It was awesome. We had a great turnout. We had some new people in there, some young people in there. Great conversation with people from all over the
Young
state.
and old people.
Yeah.
And I don't include myself in that old people thing. There were people older than us.
True. That's a true story. And so nice.
I'm quick. I'm talking to you.
Yeah, nice to see the Quicks there. It was just
a photograph Louise Quick.
Yeah, you did.
That was
you know
so
what?
fun. She's adorable.
I was about ready to step over and say, "Hey, take a picture of them together."
I wasn't set up for together pictures.
Well, yeah, you could on the fly, dude. You could do it. Anyway, we had a great time last Saturday. And
Ate some pizza.
And now it all points to convention. So
Our Better Together convention coming up in April. And actually, well, let's just drop this slide on here while we're talking about it.
Yeah.
All right. We've got our Better Together convention coming up April 9th, 10th, and 11th. It's right here at the Silverstone Plaza here in Meridian. And this is a hybrid event. And what we mean by that is we've got a bunch of folks coming in person
and a bunch of folks online
that are we're gonna stream the event.
Yeah,
They're gonna catch it online. They're gonna get a cool swag box, a package of goodies from PPI that relate to convention and some other neat things.
And be able to watch online with us. And we'll have some, during the interludes, there will be some interludes. We'll have some camera work for them and some
we've got
stuff.
Some neat stuff too. So one of the things that we did last weekend at our pre-con event was making headshots and building biographies for the folks that attended there that are coming to convention.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, by the way.
Well, so the reason for that is so that our virtual folks and our in-person folks still get to see each other and read about each other,
and maybe even put a face to a name.
That's really what I was thinking.
Yeah, there's
really what I was thinking.
I mean, there's there's some people that. Well, I hadn't met Michael Collins face to face.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't met Michael face to face. There's quite a few of them though. I haven't.
Mike Collins says, "Greetings and hallucinations."
Not hallucinating. We're here.
My buddy Mike. Katrina's here.
Hello, Laquita.
Laquita's awesome. She's here. Good stuff.
Yeah. So it was great to take those headshots. We're going to be able to expand on that a little bit. Some more stuff coming your way virtually, not in person. So that's kind of a plug to, if you want to come to virtual thing, come on over. You get some extra stuff.
Yeah, there's going to be, it's good. It's good. So that's like our big announcement. I think next week, another one of our speakers has offered to come on to the show.
Cool.
And I don't want to blow that yet.
Okay.
Christy Steves. Okay.
Okay.
I honestly, I haven't corresponded with her myself to set that up and give her the link and do the Zoom thing, but I will.
Yeah.
And
now that we have the technology advanced, thanks to you, that we can get this dialed in. That was awesome with Brian.
I had an oh crap moment this week. I was setting this up in our broadcasting system and I blitzed last week. So I'm like, oh, well, that was all of the work that I did to set up the Zoom.
Oh, no.
I found it.
Okay.
I found it. You know what that's like, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
OBS doesn't have an undo feature.
Yeah.
So I made a change and I'm like, oh no, I lost it. You guys have never done that. I know you're smarter than
configurations or everything. Yeah.
Right. So let's dig right into our topic today.
Sure.
If you're game, I'm game.
I'm game.
You know what? I'm going to stop for a minute before I jump in there. I just want to say we've got a really strong team of volunteers.
We do.
Behind our convention this year.
We do.
And so this is just a shout out, and you know who you are. If I started listing names, I'd probably
skip somebody,
and I don't want to do that. But we've got a great. So Kim Minter,
we're having a
Leah Southwick, you, Gordon,
Mike
Collins, Laquita.
Did you say Leah? You said Leah.
I said Leah.
This is the problem with
having a great team is that I can't remember all of the names on the fly. But it's absolutely worth a shout out to these people who are working behind the scenes to help make things go.
Yeah, and Sherry Barron, of course, was doing our print competition. You know, she's not a volunteer. She's on
she's
the
a board
board,
member.
but just shout out to her too, because she's putting all that stuff together.
For the image comp.
So speaking of image comp, real fast before we get in,
lay
you
down.
guys
I'll drink coffee.
don't have too much time. Surprise! So you know, it's $15 an image. $85 for a case of 6. That's probably, I would think, the cheapest price you could get. I've never seen it that way.
That's a great deal.
It's a great deal. Yeah.
I'm going to be pulling images and working on them this weekend. I have vowed to do that.
I've actually been creating in my studio, garage-ish studio. And I
resemble that remark.
And I have 3 of my, well, yeah, but yours actually looks like a studio. Mine looks like a workshop.
Garage.
Yeah. So I actually have 3 of my 6 done. I'm pretty proud of myself because I have 3 of my 6 done.
Wow.
Yeah. And I even thought of something for the print chair challenge. So I think I'm going to do that too. So this weekend, big weekend.
Tell
at
us
the Fry
off the top
Garage.
of your head, what is the print chair challenge?
It is light and shadow. Yeah. So, and the cool thing about this is you get an image, you insert it into the competition. If you win, you get half the pot.
That's pretty
So
cool.
that's a pretty good incentive.
That's pretty compelling.
Yeah. It's, you know, who knows if you're going to win or not, right?
Yeah.
So
Katrina
anyway,
says she needs to get her images chosen. And
Katrina, get off your
and
butt.
so that's so I've been talking. So my judge internally is my wife, right, to help me make those selections. And we've been talking for a couple of weeks about certain specific images that we know we've made. I'm only submitting client work.
Well, my issue is, and I think I've shot for years and years for Green Merits, you know, and Gordon and I had a discussion about this the other night. I think you were following it on the chat. You know, it's not the same. It can be, but it's not. It's as a general rule not the same. You shoot different for competition than you do for Green Merits because because art is kind of subjective, right? And if you're shooting this image that the client wants, that's what they want. But if you're trying to follow the 12 rules to shoot what judges want, your client image probably won't follow those.
I don't know. I've heard that both ways.
I know. Yeah. So
I have heard that both ways.
It's kind of so we have a great field of judges. Listen, art's subjective. These guys are trained. I'm gonna put my images in
More
there.
trained than I am.
Exactly. And
Thankfully.
we'll see where this goes. I have zero expectations.
Well, and you've been in print comp for a couple of years.
I've done I have never done a PPA certified print competition.
Okay.
So,
But you've done PPIs. You've been in image competition this last couple of years.
no, I don't think so.
You're a wizard, Harry? You're a wizard, Larry? That wasn't you.
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think I was. No. I remember that shot. That was Kelly.
Somebody else.
Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
probably. Super creative.
Wasn't me. And I.
Mike Collins says, done and entered. That's because you're old hat at this, man.
Yeah, Mike, stop it. Listen, we're newbies.
So, Mike, you'll probably be hearing from me this week.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm going to need a little guidance on this. You know what? So this is my first time entering image competition. I've said this for the last few weeks. My first time entering image competition. I'm normally serving behind the scenes and when it's print competition, but I know that I need to get into competition to pursue my degrees.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but it's just this last 2 weeks where I shot it took me 2 weeks to shoot 3 images. I'm telling you, this isn't easy. So, but if it was easy, anybody could do it, right?
Right.
So it's taught me so much. You know, you think that you don't, oh yeah, I know that, until you start to do it, or you start to emulate. And I am using the E word. I emulated a picture that I saw that I loved, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing that. Well, when you start to emulate stuff, your lights don't fall where their lights do.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn so much.
Well, it's
more.
that inspiration thing that we're talking
Yeah,
about, right?
yeah. But you
get
learn.
the inspiration and make it your own and grow from there.
But you learn from that.
I've got a couple of images. I'm excited to see how they do and how I can create headshots for competition. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited about that.
Jennifer
Excited about
said
getting
Sam
into that.
entered You're a Wizard, Larry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. I am a wizard, but I don't know where you got my picture.
All right, so topic today, dun, 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 right on time too. We usually roll this slide. I'm going to just kill a minute because no, I'm serious. We normally roll this slide right about 11:11, and it's 11:10. So let's get into today's topic. Today is work hurts, and what a unique, perhaps take on the concept of work. Work is a 4-letter word. Right. Work is something that you have to go do to survive.
A lot of people say work sucks.
Right. Yeah, you hear that?
Yeah.
Or, if you're a Marine, it's embrace the suck, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So this whole concept of work hurts today is to just kind of take an overall view of the concept of work, how it relates to our lifestyle, and for a lot of us that are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs.
And we've talked about this before.
We've talked about a lot of different elements of this before.
Right? But the entrepreneur, solopreneur, it's not easy. It's just not. And so work, basically, your work isn't easy. I just told you that I tried to emulate somebody, right? That I looked at that image. I don't know, for a good solid hour. I went. I'm going to go out and set my lights up. Done. Okay, so 4 hours later. And I don't know how many shots. I finally got it close, but I didn't.
You're not using your light meter.
Oh yeah, I am. Oh yeah. It was this is a classic deal. I set the lights up one at a time. I shut them off in between. I did all that stuff. And I really thought I could just go out and bang this thing out. That's no problem. And literally 4.5 hours later, I walked back in and went, okay, I think I got it. Nice. Then I sat down, thought about it some more, went out, repositioned the lights, and took a couple more because it's hard. It's not.
I will often do that when I'm. So one of the things that I enjoy doing. So we've talked about how I don't play much.
Correct.
One of the things that I enjoy doing is not working through. Well, is working through different concepts within the framework of what I do. Right. So we work with different backgrounds, and actually, I've shared a lot of these images with you and Gordon.
Right.
I'll work with a background like. I've got one back here behind us that is brand new. It's actually an image that I shot on medium format film probably 8 years ago, of an iron door on a stone building in a park out west, and I turned it into this fabulous backdrop. It looks like a ship's boilerplate. Boiler room.
It's got cosplay or steampunk
it's super cool.
all over it.
So, one of the things that we're looking to do is have a variety of flavors within the spectrum of work that we do. So our play is coming out here, and I'm going to start with shooting. I'm going to set up my lights in something that I think is going to work. And for something like that, I think I was working with Beauty Dish, right? A gridded Beauty Dish. Wow.
Yeah.
Do I ever use that for headshots for my, no, not usually. I have used a gridded Beauty Dish once in the last 3 years for a headshot client.
I will tell you this. I never, hardly ever use a snoot.
Okay.
Hardly ever. In one picture, I used 5.
You have 5 snoots?
No, I had to make some out of remember our duct tape story?
Yes,
yeah. Okay. Duct tape and paper.
Nice.
And some flat
I had my hot glue gun out this week.
There you go.
So let's get back to the work hurts concept. And really this boils down to, at some point, work become, we all get into this because we love the photography, we love the cameras, we love photographing, whatever it is you love photographing. And it's a love affair until you're trying to maybe make some money at it. Correct. Right. Yep. And then it becomes work. And at some point, work can be that thing that kind of has that negative connotation to it, that becomes that 4-letter word, like, oh, I have to go do this. And
I think the most, so go ahead.
So one of the things, we have but one major slide today, and I don't want to use it yet because I think of the year that I've had this in my camp, I think this is the most important thing that I've said yet. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. That was your teaser. But we've got some really salient points that I want to bring out. So one of the things that you and I were talking about ahead of time is best practices. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to relate this to real estate photography. I spent 3 years shooting 100, 150 homes a year before we came here. And I had one client who was the highest producing agent in our county. I never had to worry about anything. She sent me the job information. I sent an invoice. I went off and did the job. Come back, deliver the images. At some point, that image, the invoice would get paid. I never had to think twice about it. She didn't have to think twice about getting her images. I didn't have to think twice about getting paid. That's not normally the case, though.
Correct.
And specifically in that industry, and if you think about the market that we're in here in the Treasure Valley, it's hot, right?
Oh, it's smoking hot,
There
yeah.
is just a little over 300 homes for sale this week in Ada County. Ada County.
And they'll be gone next week or in 2 or 3 days.
So I say that to say this, that if you work for somebody that you're not familiar with, and you give them the product before you get paid, and for some reason they no longer need the product, let's say the house sold right away.
Yeah. There you go.
What are your odds of getting paid for the work that you've done?
Yeah, 0.
Yeah, pretty low, right? It diminishes. So especially in that market. So best practice in that market is often to invoice your client ahead of time, get paid before releasing the images. That's a best practice.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the better real estate photographers I know are using a system that the system they use won't let those images download until the invoice is paid, and it's automated through that.
Right.
That's a big deal, right? That's an industry best practice. Another industry best practice, and this applies, I don't care what you photograph, who you photograph for. Right?
Yeah.
A best practice is, I totally lost that train of thought.
Well, let me
Go ahead.
Let me try.
You
Yeah.
picked it up.
So, and what you're saying about
Sticker shock. That's where I was going.
What you're saying about payment, leads you into another one of the points we have, which is, enjoying what you do isn't wrong,
Oh, yeah.
but not getting paid for it is.
Is wrong.
And that not getting paid for it, this best practice thing kind of leads right into that.
It really
because,
does.
imagine if you're that real estate photographer and all of a sudden you don't get paid for, I don't know, 2 or 3 jobs, maybe even 4, right? Now, I would think you would have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder for the next client that came in and said,
So you're not going to give your best service.
no, because you got that.
Now you're jaded.
Exactly.
Right.
You're, and not only that, I'm not only going to invoice you ahead of time, might slip a little more on there, even though that's not your intent. And I get it. Maybe you had an increase in your taxes or something, whatever, and you have to charge more. But that creeps into your mind a little bit and causes you to stumble where you shouldn't be stumbling on the compensation part.
Yeah. So let's go along with the sticker shock.
Yeah.
Okay. An industry best practice is to tell your client up front
Oh, absolutely.
how much this work is worth.
Yep.
Having a client who gets to the tail end of this thing and is surprised by what you're charging is a recipe for disaster.
And
You're likely to get this as a negative review on social or on the Google machine.
Google machine.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the pre-sale consultation, or, in my cases where I met my clients and went over all this stuff. And literally, I go over it not once, not twice, but at least 3 times, sometimes 4. Okay. And it's in the contract. So there should be no surprise. The only surprise that there usually is on one of my sessions when I do in-person sales at the very end is sometimes I throw in a goodie for them.
A gift.
Yeah.
A client gift.
But maybe
That's also an industry best practice where you don't promise that thing.
right.
But you deliver something extra.
And maybe $100 off their wall art or something, but it's a best practice. But that's the only surprise they get, not that they're sitting down looking at images that are going to cost them $400 and $500.
Yeah, that nickel and dime concept.
Yeah.
And I'm going to own this. One of my very first studio clients, like 8 years ago, I didn't properly explain it. I wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard. It's hard to get comfortable asking for money. It
Right.
really is.
Well, so a lot of us, so I'm gonna look right at you. A lot of us are givers and we want to please the client, right?
Yeah.
It's really easy to overgive.
Yeah.
of your work and yourself. So
I'm looking at you, Kim Mittner. That wedding in Montana, don't do it.
I'm looking at you, Laquita. Laquita.
Yeah, Laquita's got some. You know what? She comes in and rolls in and says, I'm not very good. I'm very talented. Don't
Yeah,
know
and
what
then
I'm
she
doing.
lays these fantastic
And then she just like,
images
oh, here you go.
down, like,
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's see what's our next. You know what? We talked about Innovate or Die with our episode a couple of weeks ago.
Let's go back to the profit angle, right?
Okay.
So you enjoy what you do, right? So
Is it time?
Yeah. So
Permission to prosper.
yeah. So making a profit isn't the wrong thing to do. And we just talked about don't let anybody shame you for making that profit. So
That is where my head was when I created this slide. I'm going to lay this slide on you folks. This, I believe, is the most important thing I've said in a year. Okay. And I'm calling it, you have permission to prosper. You have permission to love what you do. You have permission to charge what you're worth. You have permission to make enough to prosper. You have permission to take time off for family, for children, for friends, for barbecue, for food, for dates.
and all that's decompress. I love that word.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And you have permission to say no to things that don't suit you.
Yep.
And, going back to this givers thing, a lot of us, I want to please my client, but I also, and we've talked about we've talked about the positive power of no. That was an episode last year. That's one of my favorite topics that plays into this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, today's work hurts topic kind of embodies a lot of things that we've talked about going back a ways. Let's see. Katrina says people need to cut off any emotional connection to money. Money is just a thing. It's really hard when you are selling the work that you've created, and it's hard because it's personal. So one of the things I've heard is it's the highest profiting studios have a salesperson doing the selling that is not done by the artist.
Yeah, and one of the things that as a salesperson that you have to remember, people have money for what they want to have money for.
Absolutely.
And so if they want a car, they'll go out and get a car.
And figure out how to get a car.
And figure it out.
Yep.
If they want that wall art, they'll figure it out. And if they can't figure that out, or if they're not in that income bracket or whatever, you just pushed yourself onto not your client.
That's true.
And there is nothing wrong with that. And you should, in my case, I always try to push them to another photographer, somebody that does, or trying to start up or do whatever. I don't want
There's
to say.
a caveat to that.
Well, yeah.
I'm never going to push a bad client to another photographer.
No.
I will readily refer a client that doesn't. They'll say, I really want to hire you, but I can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. You know what? Let me find somebody that might be a better fit for you. I know some other folks that are better positioned to charge what you're looking to pay.
And you can kind of tell now. You can't tell so much with seniors and families, but I could always kind of tell with weddings and what venue they booked.
Well, that's true too.
If they're doing now,
you can also tell a lot of times if the conversation starts with, "I'm doing this. How much do you charge?"
Yeah.
Very seldom is that the question that my clients ask me right out of the gate. It's definitely something that we're going to talk about.
And somebody to me that says my budget for a photographer is $1,500. If they say that, I politely say, I'm not your photographer.
Yeah, and that's all right too.
Yeah.
And we've talked about so many of these things, and this all comes back to, listen, I want you to know that it's okay. And you said it, right? Yeah. There's no shame in charging what you're worth. There's no shame in prospering from what you do. If you spend time taking training, if you spend time doing research and development, that's what we do when we play.
Yeah, I know.
We are doing research and development.
I know.
That is valid. Just because you're not in a laboratory wearing a white coat with safety glasses, or maybe you are. I've seen some of your work. What's that gal? Freak Show?
Freak Show. You know what? She's wearing the safety glasses.
Yeah, no kidding, right? There's no shame in that.
No.
So this whole concept of work hurts comes from the fact that we seldom take care of ourselves first.
Right.
And you have permission. You heard it here
Well,
on the Bob and Larry show.
yeah, the two.
You have
guys.
permission to take care of you first.
Yep.
And take care of your client. And so, a long time ago, probably 15, maybe closer to 18 years ago, I met with a counselor from the Small Business Development, SBDC, Small Business Development Center, in a rural community out where I was opening my small retail store. This is a long time ago. She said to me, how do you plan to make money doing what you're doing? Like, do you have a plan to pay yourselves? I'm like, well, we don't really have a plan to do that. Yeah, we're just trying to get the store open. Because you need to have a plan to pay yourself, because this was earth shattering for me, earth moving for me. You owe it to your customer to charge enough and treat yourself well enough that you're still here doing this the next time they need you.
Yep.
And that's been with me all this time. And I bid a job maybe a week and a half ago. I didn't get it. I was way out of this guy's ballpark. Okay.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm not doing the work.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
it wasn't a good fit. Like, he wanted all of the things that I was talking about. And then we got to the price. He was like, really? I'm like, yeah, really.
Yeah. But sometimes on that kind of stuff, a turn down today might be a client tomorrow too.
Well, and we've mentioned that in a past episode.
Yep.
Where that client that walked away from that sale or that job because it was too much, they just couldn't frame it in their mind how they could possibly spend that much money. They went and hired maybe somebody who doesn't have the skills that I do, and they come back like, hey, we did that and it wasn't great, and so we'd like to. Great, my price went up.
Yeah.
How's that? Right. And it doesn't always go up, but it does sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's just the deal. But I guess part of this is, I love the phrase unapologetic.
Yeah.
This is my price list and I'm unapologetic about it. In fact, it's not just my price list that I'm telling you, but I'm going to hand it to you. I want you to, in fact, I'm going to leave it with you.
Exactly.
I don't want you. I did this last week. I bid a job. It's for a pretty major flooring contractor here in the Valley. I want the job. I want it real bad. I want to be working with these folks. I see growth in their business, and that's my favorite client. Like, my client is the one whose business is thriving and growing. And then I see their billboard with my photograph on it. And I'm like, that's synergistic, right? That's a synergistic relationship where they're thriving and we're thriving, and we pair up and thrive together. Woohoo! Like, that's my favorite thing. So I bid this job, and when I'm done and we talk through all of the, hey, what happens in 3 months if we add another sales supervisor? Great, send them in. This is how much that costs. And we photograph them and we add them to your group composite. And man, I really love this concept of your group composite, yada, yada. Great. Conversation's done. Do you have any more questions? Nope. How can I add value to this conversation? What can I do or say for you to add value to what we've just talked about? Well, they're not sure. Great. But I've left that there. And then when I'm done, I have a leaf behind. It has all of my information on it in a very clear and concise. And I've shared some of this with you. Mm-hmm. I boiled my pricing down to an infographic. Boom.
Yeah. It looks great too, by the way.
It's simple.
Yep,
That's the
yep.
thing. So I'm a pretty wordy guy. You know that.
Well,
they know that.
I think when it comes to price lists, you kind of got to be wordy, right?
Well,
because you got some. There's so
except
many.
it confuses people.
I know, but there's quite a few options there.
Not with me.
Well, not with you,
Yep.
but with the rest of us.
Because I've boiled it down. But you could simplify too.
No, it's because you shoot headshots only.
It is.
And
but we offer other products.
coffee mugs. No, I'm just kidding.
I've got like 107 coffee mugs sitting in a box right there.
I'm just
crazy.
I'm kidding.
So look, I think we've done a pretty good job talking
think so,
about
too.
the work hurts, and I want to know what your questions are.
Well,
and
the other thing that we need to mention though
Yeah.
are goals, right? So
Oh,
we
yes.
talked about I personally have a 5-year rolling goal, and so at the end of each year I assess where I'm at. I go out 5 years. Where do I want to be in 5 years? I'm sure you have the same thing or something close to it.
We call it a blueprint, a business blueprint. I like to think of it as a design.
Yeah.
And if you've ever built a building with a contractor, there are always design mods.
Yep.
You have to plan for design changes.
Yep.
Right. So we call a blueprint. We have mods, but we definitely have that. Yep.
Or maybe even you have to plan if you're in construction. You even have to plan for no raw material, because sometimes that finish you chose or the fascia,
The flooring, the floor tile,
whatever,
the tile
they
that
might
DC'd,
discontinue that.
right?
Yeah.
Or the boat that was bringing that over
Exactly.
that matched
Stank.
your thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that go awry between the signing of the contract and the end product.
Or the planning of
anything.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, but the deal is that your long-term goals don't just happen. Don't.
How do you get to your long-term goals, Larry?
Well, you practice in your garage with 5 snoots or 4 snoots, whatever I use.
And some duct tape. Right?
Yeah, it's some duct tape. It's just a result of your work. And your work is your practice, and that's where we kind of come back to print competition and all this stuff that we do. And I go out with models and shoot them. And why do I do that? Because that's what I do, and I run into different situations and I know how to handle them. That's another thing I can put in my tool bag. You're the same way. You've now, expanded your backdrops. You've expanded your lighting. You've done a ton of stuff in the last 3 months, 4 months. You've done a lot of stuff in your business. So, work kind of hurts.
So we're just having a quick conversation on the side there that I noticed our feed is stalling. Yeah, freezing. So I think we're going to wrap it up. Folks, this work hurts concept is near and dear to me. And I'm going to put the permission to prosper slide up one more time. I'm going to leave it there for a minute because I want to make sure it gets out to you folks at the other end. You have permission to love what you do, charge what you're worth, make enough to prosper, take time off to decompress and say no to the things that don't suit you. You have permission to be unapologetic about all of these things but knowing that you have to do the work.
Right.
Right.
And get what you're worth. That ask hurts sometimes, but get it. You're not in this just to practice.
Yeah. And that ask hurts. I get this question sometimes. What is it like when you don't get the job because your prices are too high? Well, okay, it sucks. Right? There's a little bit of a sinking feeling you get. Yeah. Well, I really hoped I was going to get this job.
You know what? After a while, you don't even really get that sinking feeling. You just like, you know what? Okay, I didn't get it. I'm moving on to the next one.
I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a choice. You didn't get the job. Right. So, yeah.
But you know what? I think the tendency is, this is important. This is a point for you folks. I think the tendency when you don't get the job is to grovel. Like, okay, well, maybe I could do it. Then you start breaking your prices down in front of the customer. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
One of the phrases that I'll use, I guess we're not wrapping up quite yet. One of the phrases that I like to use with my client is, let's both sharpen our pencils. First of all, I'm sure there's a spot or two in here where I can break the price point down. One of the jobs that I just bid, instead of a location fee for each of the locations that we're going to go to, I'm able to cut $795 off the bid by saying, look, if we schedule these locations all in the same day, I'm going to charge you 1 location fee instead of 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
So that's sharpening my pencil, right? Am I cutting my throat? No, I'm not cutting my throat. I'm giving something to the client that meets them halfway. The other thing that you can ask your client, this is a big one. Are you sure you need everything that you just asked for?
Yep.
Because if we both sharpen our pencils, I'm sure we can come to an understanding and create the work that you need.
Right.
For the price that you're willing to pay.
Yeah.
Right.
And
for what I need.
There's a lot of ways to do that. You can say you can actually kind of not. You say, look, I can work with my suppliers. I can get the price of XYZ knocked down maybe a little bit. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
You can, but you never want to say, well, I normally charge $3,000.
I'll do it for half price.
Yeah, but I'll do it for you for $1,500. No, you don't want to say that.
No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
All right, man. What else did we miss here? One of the reasons you're an entrepreneur is to allow yourself more time. Work hurts because it takes that time. Determine the best practices for your line of work to avoid situations with clients like sticker shock, non-payment, late payment, etc.
Innovate or die. So we just talked about Bob Ryder and his headshot business, and he kind of innovated on the pricing. He added
We added a product.
Iconic pricing. Didn't you change your pricing structure a little bit?
I did last fall.
Yeah. So that's
in the midst of the pandemic, I raised my prices.
That's an innovation right there.
Well, you know what it is it readily eliminated the clients that I don't want to serve.
Yep. Yeah.
But those are clients that are saying no, thank you.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to have a little bit of a thick skin if you're going to raise your prices to get to where you want to be for the work that you're going to do. So when that client says, well, you're charging too much, I'm like, okay, we're not skin time, right?
And we're not suggesting that if you're a portrait photographer right now, let's just say your session fee is $150. I'm pulling numbers out of thin air. I have no idea, but let's just say that your session fee is $150. We're not saying that you should go out tomorrow and
charge $1,000
and charge $1,000 for your session fee. You just shouldn't do it. So it's kind of what the market will bear, right?
Yeah.
But you have that studio, you have that overhead, you have your taxes, you have your equipment, you have your
and you've
training.
done the research and development, and you're continuing the research and development. You're continuing your.
So maybe 150 is a little too low.
Yeah.
But the leap from 150 to 1,000 is.
And I'm going to own this. Like we trickled our prices up for probably 2 years before I went, you know what? I'm done with this trickle up theory. I'm going to set my prices where I need to be for the work that I'm going to do, because all of my work has an ongoing element to it with my clients.
Yes.
If I'm getting the right clients, right? So I need to set right from the onset how much I need to be getting a year down the road, because I hate raising prices on my client.
Well, and the reason for that, for those of you that have never seen one of his composites with his clients, that's the reason for that, is because he doesn't get to take that composite every 3 months. He doesn't get to, or not the composite, he doesn't get to take that group photo every 3 months. You take an individual and then you magically slip them into the composite. So basically what he's
doing,
he's covering his costs on that composite time, which you have to do. So innovation, right?
Yeah.
And that's something new. I would guarantee you that there is probably very few companies that have a photographer say, I will take a group photo of your employees, and oh, by the way, if you add one 3 months down the road, I can just slide that person right in here. I don't think, and they're just like, well, wait, what?
Yeah.
We don't have to all dress up and come back down?
Occasionally I'll win a job because the other photographer that they're talking to can't insulate them against attrition and so insulating against growth or planning for growth. A lot of the companies that I pursue. So this is maybe a best practice. This is part of the Work Hurts. This is part of the R&D. I know that my client isn't the mom and pop. Okay. My client is the client, and I said this earlier, that has a growth trajectory, and I want to build a partnership with them so that we're growing together.
Yeah.
But I had to, like, how do you find that? Like,
innovate.
Well, it is, and it's doing the research and talking to the people and really taking a hard look. And this is another great point for Work Hurts. Take a hard look at your client.
Yeah.
Is when this client calls you, and you've had this client, and you've had this client, when you answer the phone, or even before you pick up the phone, you see that caller ID and you go, oh,
yeah,
fire that client.
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah,
I had a pretty big client here, and they always referred to me as the expensive photographer. We don't work together anymore.
Yeah.
That's the wrong mindset.
Yeah.
Right? For the work that I was doing. Anyway, good stuff, man. Let's roll on to, folks, if you are not yet a member of Professional Photographers of Idaho, we've got a deal. Such a deal.
We do have a deal.
We got a deal for you here.
So you can join us at convention.
Yep.
And
pick up your first year's membership
for Go ahead.
$245. That includes your membership, and it includes your convention.
Yep.
Normally, our membership is
$99 a year
or $9.95 a month.
for a 12-month commitment.
Why do you want to say 10
I
months out
don't
of
know.
that?
I don't know. I
This
just,
isn't the insurance industry.
well, I'm thinking it might be.
So listen, convention, let's roll into convention promo. Better Together, $195 if you are a PPI or PPA member.
So you don't even have to be a member of our state organization to come to our convention for $195.
Yep.
Cheap.
And if you want to tack your year's membership on with that, we're happy to do that
$50 more.
for $50 more, which
Yep.
is a great deal. So if you've done the math following along here, you're going to save half price on your first year's membership. And I'm pretty stoked about that, right? I think that's a pretty swell deal. And let's talk for just a moment. Last weekend was a lot of fun.
Oh, I had a good time.
Saturday, we called it our pre-con meet and greet, and it was sponsored by Urban Air up in their corporate suite. So shout out to Urban Air here in Meridian. They
Thank you.
sponsored Professional Photographers of Idaho with their corporate space. They had all those beautiful tables, all brand new chairs, pizza for 30 people, water for 30 people. There were leftovers when we were done. Just a great environment. We were treated well. I know a lot of the families that were there, a lot of our photographers that were there, they sent their kids downstairs, paid for them to play, and they, burn those kids out.
Yep.
Everybody goes home tired.
Yep.
It's a pretty good plan, right? But I tell you, we talk about this a lot. This whole thing, everything that we do, all the Friday lives, the conventions, all of the get-togethers that we were doing before the COVID thing hit, it's all about relationship for me. It's all about building a community around me to support what I do and to also allow me to pour into something bigger than me. I know this is true for Mike Collins. I know this is true for Laquita. Laquita's here because she wants to be with people who do what we do, right? You want to be with like-minded individuals. Anyway, I didn't want to finish today's episode without talking about relationship.
Yeah, and that's probably another good topic. Well, and we've hit on that all along, and that's kind of the Better Together theme. We've done that all year long. This board has done that since I've been involved with it, which was early last year. Even though we didn't say it, Jen came up with the Better Together idea for this convention, and is quickly becoming our theme, so to speak. That it's not just for convention; it's better together for the industry. And if you can't, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to elevate the industry as a whole. I'm trying to push him up. He's trying to push me up. We're trying to elevate. Look, everybody. If you have there's enough experience in that room. If you have an issue with something, you don't have to ask one of us. Ask around, because there's a ton of experience. And the elevation thing, I'm going to go right back to, listen, for a long time, print competition, and I'll keep this short, but print competition for me was just a hard pass, because it didn't pay my bills, right? It just doesn't.
We've had this conversation because we were both like-minded a year ago.
Exactly.
Yep.
But I go back to the print competition because it forces you to do things you're uncomfortable with. It forces you to innovate.
You know what we call that? Growth.
It's exactly. It's out of your comfort zone.
So the relationships, the community brings me education. And so the CPP thing, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. I just earned my certified professional photographer from PPA. And what I realized in that process was that it's a career path. So work is a job.
Yes.
Work is a job. Okay. Being in community in this industry is building a career path. Getting involved in service, getting involved in education, getting involved in image and print competition is a career path.
One of my best friends, he passed away, but one of my best friends always said, the way to know a subject is to teach it.
Oh my,
and
that's
so,
absolutely true.
And he was 100% correct.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end with just a little story.
Yeah.
A long time ago, it's been...
It's usually me telling the story.
It is.
I'm happy to have you in there.
About 6 years ago or 5 years ago, it's been a while, I went to a convention, and we have quite the extensive network. It's Shutterfest. I'm just going to say it because I'm not...
It's all good.
I'm not abashed or ashamed of it. So I put out a deal that said, for new people, if you want to learn OCF, meet me in the Ballroom Hotel. This is where we were staying. I don't know. I picked a time, 10 o'clock at night. Shutterfest goes 24 hours. So you can shoot 3 days nonstop if you want. Yeah, exactly. And then you sleep on the plane coming back. So anyway, I put out this note, and it was just that. It was just a one-liner. First time OCF, meet me, Ballroom, 10 o'clock. There were 45 people that showed up.
Well,
they had cameras that I'd never even heard of. I mean, there's like I swear to God, there was like a Kodak Brownie box camera. I mean,
awesome.
and then how could I hook this up to, and it was a typical, I call them typical. There's nothing wrong with them. There are questions that you can go to the interwebs and you get all these smart ass answers from people.
Yeah.
But these were like, look, I bought this and I bought this and it doesn't work.
Laquita has a flash that she's never used yet. So she's going to come over and we're going to play a little bit together.
Well, don't listen to him, Laquita. Come over to my. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, the point of the story
That's
was
the idea, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The point of the story was, I had no idea 45 people were going to show up, and you talk about putting me. I'm thinking 10, 12, maybe some Nikon, maybe some Canon, which I'm not. I'm very familiar with Canon, not as familiar with Nikon, but I could
Sony,
go look through.
Pentax, Olympus.
Oh, there's Fuji. There's
Phase One.
There's everything, and it just.
Fuji.
I walk in the room and I'm just like, oh.
What did I do?
So anyway, if you want to know a subject, teach it.
Teach it, yeah. So, and I'm teaching at convention. I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah.
I love to teach. I've done it for years and years.
I'm going
and
to
years.
heckle you.
I don't doubt that. You probably won't be the only one.
I'm going to get my remote trigger.
I want to talk about next week's show.
Okay. Yeah, let's get out of here.
And so next week's show is called the No Power Seat.
Yeah.
And I had to explain it to Larry when he got here. And it goes like this. You show up to meet with a prospective client or a prospective boss or anybody like that, okay? And you walk into their office and they have the gigantic oak desk. And they're sitting there, big power chair behind the desk. And you sit in that little chair in front of the desk. Let's see if we can pick a different camera angle here. You sit down in that little chair in front of their great big desk. And you are in the no power seat, okay? That's what that is, the no power seat. And there's a lot of ways to wind up in that no power seat.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that next week and how to turn the tables a little bit and how to get into that seat.
Just remember, folks, always arrive to lunch early.
That's one of my strategies.
That's it.
That's how we do it. All right, folks, we're going to sign off for today. We were going to wrap early and we didn't.
Yeah, no, but we're actually on time.
We are landing right at the end right here. Okay. Folks, thanks so much for being with us today. I appreciate your comments and suggestions, and we will see you next week.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Cheers.